Good morning, everyone. Wow, that's a serious echo. Are we ready to save the climate? Yeah. Are we ready to save the climate? Yeah. All right. I'm Rafael Mandelman, the supervisor for District 8, but I am not running this press conference. I'm just doing what politicians must do to allow the use of the microphone. But really, the star today is Daniel Tahara from Citizens Climate Lobby. So Daniel, can you come on up?
Thank you, Supervisor Mandelman. It's really an honor to be here representing just a small number of the people and organizations across the city who have come together to make this happen. So I know you didn't come here to hear me speak. We have a number of elected officials and public servants that all want to share their enthusiasm for solving climate change and tackling what is really the greatest environmental challenge of our generation. So obviously, first off, we have Supervisor Mandelman from District 8. He represents the residents of Noe Valley, Glen Park, the Castro, Diamond Heights, and the Mission as District 8 Supervisor. And he's worked closely with environmental advocates and key stakeholders across the city in order to draft the climate emergency resolution that he will be introducing later today. So please give a warm welcome again to Supervisor Mandelman.
So good morning again. I'm still Rafael Mandelman, still the District 8 Supervisor. I want to thank you all for joining us here today. At today's Board of Supervisors meeting, I will be introducing a resolution to declare a climate emergency in San Francisco. The resolution is the product of powerful and steadfast advocacy of amazing climate justice advocates, some of whom you will hear today, but we have so many wonderful organizations represented. I want to give a shout out to them. We have Green Action, Mothers Out Front, Citizens Climate Lobby, Climate Mobilization Now, Sierra Club, SF Tomorrow, 350 Bay Area. Thank you all for being here. Let's give them a round of applause. In particular, I want to thank a few individuals who've worked closely with my office to create and refine this resolution. Joni Eisen, Jennifer Clare, Joni Eisen. Jennifer Clary, Daniel we've already heard from, and we'll hear from some more, Robin Cooper, Michelle Pierce, and Jay Wilson. So let's give all of them a round of applause. We are declaring emergency because, simply put, there is no time to waste. San Francisco, like the rest of California, is already suffering impacts of climate change in the form of droughts, air pollution, extreme heat, and lowland flooding. On our current path, projections show up to 8 feet of sea level rise in the bay over the next 100 years. But even at 3 feet, we know the ferry building will be flooding twice a day, and the Embarcadero, Mission Bay, and Marina will all be at risk. Already, we're planning to permanently close 2 lanes of the Great Highway in response to rising tides. We know we will have to find billions and likely tens of billions of dollars to make the infrastructure investments necessary to protect the city from climate change impacts that are already inevitable. We must take every feasible action to prevent even more severe impacts. The emergency is upon us, and we need to recognize that and act with urgency based on that recognition every single day. The resolution urges the San Francisco Department of the Environment, in collaboration with the Mayor's Office and all other relevant city agencies, to deliver a report within 100 days on the near-term steps our city must take in response to our climate emergency. In addition, I'm calling for a hearing on the high-priority actions the city can take to achieve deep reductions at emergency speed. And finally, I'm asking my colleagues and the mayor to commit to developing a budget with our budget chair, Sandra Feuer, that supports action to address the climate emergency, avoids further investment of public dollars in fossil fuel reliant infrastructure, and ensures a climate resilient future for all San Franciscans. San Francisco has long been a leader on environmental issues, and we should all be grateful for the tremendously talented staff of our Department of the Environment. Can we give them a round of applause for the work they do every single day? We're going to be hearing from Director Rafael later. I also want to acknowledge the tremendous leadership in the Mayor's office from Tyrone Jew. Thank you for being here, Tyrone. This resolution seeks to build on and amplify their efforts, and I want to thank them for their partnership in moving it forward. Climate change is, of course, a global challenge and will require global action. The scale of the problem can seem overwhelming, but we cannot allow the enormity of the challenge to become an excuse for inaction. To the contrary, governmental officials at every level of government must be and remain singularly focused every day, at every opportunity, on doing everything within our power to avert climate catastrophe. Other Bay Area cities like Berkeley, Hayward, Richmond, and Oakland have already taken the step that we're taking to declare a state of climate emergency, and we should certainly join them. I'm glad that we are. I want to thank my co-sponsors, President Norman Yee, as well as Supervisors Sandra Lee Fewer, Aaron Peskin, Gordon Marr, Valley Brown, and Matt Haney. I look forward to working with them and with all of you as we respond to the greatest emergency of our time. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce my colleague, Gordon Marr, or actually but Daniel probably has other things to say.
Yeah, it's quite a privilege to have such enthusiasm from supervisors. Thank you for coming out today. So up next, we have Supervisor Marr representing District 4. Supervisor Marr is a longtime environmental advocate and organizer. He received a Bachelor of Science in Conservation and Resource Studies from UC Berkeley and helped lead the Bay Area Environmental Health Collaborative and has served on the San Francisco Commission on the Environment. So without further ado, Supervisor Marr.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, everyone. I first want to thank Supervisor Mandelman for introducing the resolution today. Also to thank SF Environment for your leadership on reducing our city's emissions and protecting our environment. But most importantly, I want to really thank all the organizers and activists who've been at the forefront of the struggle to avert the climate crisis for decades, and especially the youth who will be the most impacted by it and who today bring a renewed sense of urgency to the present and future catastrophe that is climate change. It is here and it is now. I represent the Sunset District, where already we move sand from one end of Ocean Beach to the other by the ton, where we will soon be removing a section of the Great Highway entirely, building a partially buried wall in the sand, and rethinking our coastal infrastructure, all in response to sea level rise. The climate crisis is no longer speculative or future tense. It is here and it is now. We need a response proportional to the crisis we face. And the crisis we face is existential. While our federal government denies this reality, it falls upon states and cities to lead. In the city of St. Francis, this is our moral obligation. We must dramatically reduce our emissions in the next 12 years. To those who say we can't, that the circumstances or status quo won't allow it, we must. We must change the circumstances and challenge the status quo. Thank you. So I stand here today to join the declaration of an emergency, and I stand resolute knowing that all of us, as a city, as activists, as elected leaders, as individuals, and as communities, can and must rise to the urgency of this moment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Marr, for the really inspiring words. Up next, we have Supervisor Fewer representing District 1. Supervisor Fewer cares deeply about the environment and climate change. She's advocated for protecting our biodiversity in San Francisco and has led the charge for divestment from fossil fuels in the city. It's a pleasure to introduce her today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I also want to echo the comments of my previous speakers and my colleagues, and really to thank Supervisor Mandelman for taking a leadership role in this, and thank you so much to our Department of Environment and all the advocates and activists that are trying to save our world. Definitely, this is an emergency in San Francisco. We owe it not only to current residents of San Francisco, but as a fourth-generation San Franciscan to the fifth, sixth, seventh, 10th generations of San Franciscans. I think one of the things that we have done so well is that we have worked with our Department of Environment to work proactively to look at green businesses, how we can actually work proactively in San Francisco to not invest in companies that actually, to divest from companies that actually invest in fossil fuels was a big step for us, and pushing our retirement board also to do the same thing. I think there is much more work that we can be doing, and one of the things I think that we're doing so well is actually switching to clean energy, and everyone can do that and switch from PG&E to clean energy, and that is going to be readily accessible to everyone in San Francisco in the next couple of months. Another thing is that we can do a local build-out plan. We can look at our own energy resources here in property that is owned by PUC and San Francisco, and where we can now produce our own clean renewable energy. But definitely, this is an emergency. I am so glad today that we are all together declaring that this is a crisis and this is an emergency. And it is very true what Supervisor Mandelman said, that sometimes I think this issue seems so big when you see what's happening in Greenland and you see what's happening to some of the most marginalized communities in the world and the lack of water. This, in San Francisco, we can lead right here and do what we can locally, and it is within our power. So I am proud to sign on to this with this resolution, actually with Supervisor Mandelman. And once again, I thank you all, because I think it's going to take all of us actually to do our part here. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer. Next up, we have one of the true climate champions of our city, Debbie Rafael, Director of the San Francisco Department of the Environment. Director Rafael believes firmly in the ability of cities to lead the charge in protecting its residents from environmental harm. And she's worked tirelessly in government over her career to ensure that all citizens have a right to a clean and healthy environment. It's been a pleasure to work with her. She's driven our deep emissions reductions to date so far and has set a really audacious target for net zero emissions for the city. So please give a warm welcome to Director Rafael.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Supervisor Mandelman, for your leadership, your partnership, and your willingness to bring us all together to get to that end point that we know we need to get. My name is Debbie Rafael, and I'm the Director of the Department of Environment, and I'm deeply honored to be up here with the most amazing group of people who are passionate, as all of us, to heal this planet before us. So we know the science is abundantly clear. We know we're going to need to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. We cannot afford to wait. We cannot afford to kick the can down the road. We've got to take urgent, decisive action now. And San Francisco, as a city, is not afraid to take a hard look at itself, because we know that cities account for 70% of the greenhouse gases that are emitted on this planet. And with that kind of responsibility comes the opportunity and the obligation to take action. And we have been taking action, and we have some great stats to take note of. Since 1990, we have reduced our emissions as a city by 30%. And we've done that at the same time as our economy has grown by 111% and our population by 20%. We have decoupled environment and economy. They are together, they are strong, and we have proven that it can be done. And we know we have to push, I'm having a hard time with this. And we know we have to push further. As was stated before, we have an audacious goal. It's a goal that scientists are telling us we must meet. Net zero carbon emissions by 2050. We need to completely get rid of our reliance on fossil fuels. That's no more diesel, no more gasoline, no more natural gas. That's an all-electric future, and that electricity is renewable. It's very simple, the what, but it's the how that's really critical, because the how we get there is going to make a world of difference. And we know, as Supervisor Fuhr said, that the impacts of climate change are going to disproportionately impact those who can least respond to those impacts: women, communities of color, low-income communities. And that's true around the globe. It's also true here in San Francisco. So we know when we take action in San Francisco on climate change, we are not just reducing carbon emissions, but we are improving the health and well-being of everyone who lives and works here, whether it's through energy efficiency savings, clean transportation, improving air quality in the most polluted communities, finding ways to use renewable energy so we decrease natural gas and the emissions inside our homes. The examples are plentiful that health and environmental protection and climate protection go hand in hand. So the Department of the Environment is ready and willing to stand and chart this bold course with all of you, because we are in this boat together. Being in this boat together means we have to row in alignment. We need to be rowing together at that same pace in that same direction. So I'm challenging, inviting, excited to say that we are here to work with our city agencies, our elected leaders, our Commission on the Environment, and I have two of my wonderful commissioners here. We have Lisa Hoyos and Mike Sullivan, so thank you, commissioners. We have our business community, all of small business, big business, our community-based organizations, and all of you are here today, because I know that together we can achieve a sustainable, affordable, and resilient city. We know we can do better, we know we can do more, and we know we must. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Rafael. So next up, we have some advocates to come speak today. So first, from the Climate Mobilization, Dr. Jan Kirsch. Dr. Kirsch is a longtime Bay Area environmental activist, medical doctor trained in public health, and past president of the New York chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility. She's on the board of the Climate Mobilization. We have a great contingent here today, and a founding member of its Bay Area chapter. She's on the steering committee of 350 Bay Area, and it's a Speakers Bureau coordinator, and she is a presenter for the Climate Reality. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Kirsch.
I thank you. That was way too long of an introduction. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of the Climate Mobilization, an organization that is strongly in support of city by city, locality by locality upsurge in climate action, because that's the way we're working right now, and it can work. And we are here to very much to thank the Board of Supervisors, especially Supervisor Mandelman, and the co-sponsors of this resolution for, in a sense, becoming first responders to the greatest public health threat that humankind has ever faced. Not just now, but ever faced. Making the bubonic plague in terms of numbers or the Spanish flu look small. Because we're talking about an issue of human extinction, and that is not a very good thing, we can agree, for public health. So we are here to thank the members, to congratulate them on noting and wishing and pushing to act on both the global and the local. Let me just get medical for a minute, and that is the fact that locally, we know the global issues that have been already discussed, of drought and heat waves and other issues, but just here in San Francisco today, as we speak, people are suffering from, even dying from, the effects of fossil fuel pollution. And when we bring in the global side, the previous effects of the smoke from the wildfires. People are dying today. And this is what we are standing up to, the global and the local together. Because those kind of climate pollutants, those kind of pollutants cause or exacerbate lung disease, including childhood asthma. They cause or worsen heart disease. They provoke stroke and other neurologic abnormalities. They cause lung cancer and other cancers. They are our problem. It is an emergency now, as has already been stated. But here's the thing. I would not be here today if I thought that there were no hope. Yeah, we got like a handful of years to do this, not a handful of decades, and that is climate truth. And we thank the board supporters for understanding and telling everyone that that is climate truth. We don't have that much time, but we can do it. Look, if on this rainy day, if I thought we couldn't do it, I'd just be under some covers, eating cookies, and binge watching pretty much anything but a doctor show. But I'm here because I strongly believe that we can do it. I know we can do it. And therefore, I stand in support, the climate mobilization stands in support of this resolution. And emergency is a strong word. It is a powerful word. There is another strong E word, and that is extinction. San Francisco stands for prevention of that dire prognosis and stands up for a planet that is graced by life, that we may heal ourselves. I thank you.
Yeah, it's really difficult to understate the public health effects of climate change, and really appreciate your efforts in raising that awareness. Next up, we have Michelle Pierce from Bayview Hunters Point Community Advocates. Michelle is a lifelong Bayview Hunters Point resident and has been an environmental justice advocate since 2001. She's someone who's fully committed to embedding resilience and climate safety into the city. And it's really been my pleasure to be able to work with her over the last months and really learn from her about environmental justice and equity. And it's my pleasure to introduce her today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. As Daniel stated, my name is Michelle Pierce. I am an environmental justice activist, which means I'm all about equity and ground up. So thank you, Dr. Kirsch. I want to tell you a little bit about how this movement happened, because it truly was ground up. We decided that something needed to be done before the IPCC report, before the government agencies came together and made their declaration and filed their report. And we said, we need to go talk to some people and start really working on this. Personally, because I come from the Southeast Corridor, and the Southeast Corridor of this city has every kind of climate, toxic, sustainability issue that you can think of. We have industry, we have agriculture, we have the sea, we have the cars that are moving the goods that are coming from the manufacturing. We're there. And this group got together and we said, let's go talk to some people. And we knocked on some doors, and some supervisors let us in, and some department heads let us in. And they all kind of gave us this weird look, climate emergency. Like, who's going to commit to that? Then we visited the new kid in town, and we said, climate emergency, and he said, oh my God, how do we do this? Thank you so much for your courage. Thank you so much for your commitment and your willingness to step out there, because truly, he and his staff got right on board. The Department of the Environment got right on board. Tyrone Zhu got right on board, and we really started working on this thing. And it took months, because when does bureaucracy not take months? but we're here. And this is really about how do we move all of us in this city, everybody who has a concern, everybody who has a business, everybody who lives here. I didn't say everybody who has a house here. I said everybody who lives here, everybody who works here, everybody who eats here, because we are all under threat. And so I really do, I want to thank all of you that are here. I want to thank you supervisors who are signing on. And before I leave, in good conscience, how do I get you to stay? Supervisor Fuhrer, I will walk the streets for you. Please stay. She is an equity champion, as is Supervisor Moore and Supervisor Mandelman, and we need all of you guys and your courage in order to see something like this through. Thank you guys very much.
Good job. A round of applause for Michelle. Last up, we have Kristen Tam from 350 Bay Area's Youth vs. Apocalypse Fellowship. Kristen is a senior at Lowell High School, and she's served for the last 3 years as Lowell's Eagle Club president. She's a former District 7 Youth Commissioner appointed by President Yee, and was an SF Youth Works intern at the Department of the Environment. Currently, Kristen is in 350's Youth vs. Apocalypse Fellowship, and I'm really excited to hear what she has to say and the voice that she brings to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kristen, and I am a San Francisco born and raised youth environmental advocate who is terrified by the effects that climate change has had on our communities and will have in the future for everyone around us in the world. Thank you, Supervisor Mandelman, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the climate emergency we all face. San Francisco is lovingly a very forward-thinking city, and I'm grateful to be a part of this and to be a leader, listener, and voice for change in it. As many of you have heard, the Sunrise Movement is something that my generation is taking very seriously. We're taking climate change seriously. We need more courageous leaders like you, Supervisor Mandelman, who are not afraid to take bold, transformative action now. I represent Youth vs. Apocalypse, and we are also speaking up and asking our senators to vote yes on the Green New Deal. Let's show our support, action, and a little bit of love for that right here in San Francisco, too. Thank you. As I strive to be the most eco-friendly I can everywhere I go, bringing my reusable utensils, bags, and containers, I strive to lead by example and act to inspire. This climate emergency resolution is just doing that too. We're inspiring other nations and cities to step up and call this out as a climate emergency. We're affecting San Francisco workers, families, and especially those living in low-income neighborhoods. And as I said before, I'm calling on not just San Francisco, but the Bay Area, state of California, nation, and the world to take climate change and climate justice seriously. We are calling for bold action now. As an environmental leader in San Francisco, I was scared that we were not taking enough action quick enough. Today, I am a little happier. Thank you again, Supervisor Mandelman, for showing us and setting an example for other American politicians to follow. Let's show them that big change is possible and that being bold can dramatically improve public health, create environmental green jobs, and rebalance our environment. I'm not going to say what ifs anymore, because we are going to act. We must act. Even big measures and innovative solutions might be a little scary. I'm confident that we can all come together and fix our climate breakdown. When working on one of my college essays, my aunt said to me, "Kristen, you know what? You're a climate change disruptor." And I was like, yeah, I guess I am a climate change disruptor. So we can all take that to heart and pronounce that even though this transformative change may be daunting, we can all be climate change disruptors. Thank you. So we must have a new approach and sense of urgency to combat this terrifying climate emergency. And with that, I want to close with saying I've put my confidence in Debbie Rafael, Director of the Department of the Environment, and the Department of the Environment in general. You guys are amazing. To work closely with Mayor London Breed and the Board of Supervisors and our communities in creating a comprehensive climate action plan. Thank you, and let us get this done.
I have some things to say, but I don't know if I can sum it up any better. Just really thank you to everyone who spoke today, everyone who's supporting, everyone, all the many hours that have gone into making this one event happen and this emergency resolution happen. And just a reminder that this is the first step and we're all in it together. And really thank you for coming out here today.
Thank you, Daniel. I have two more quick thank yous. Two people who have not been acknowledged, who should be, who've done some real heavy lifting on this. Peter Galata in the Department of the Environment, and my aide, Kyle Smealy. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
Supervisor Mandelman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Today I'm introducing a resolution to declare a climate emergency in San Francisco. The resolution is the product of the powerful and steadfast advocacy of some amazing climate justice activists. In particular, I want to thank some folks who worked closely with my office in crafting this resolution: Joni Eisen, Jennifer Clary, Daniel Tahara, Robin Cooper, Michelle Pierce, and Jay Wilson. We are declaring an emergency because, simply put, there is no more time to waste. San Francisco, like the rest of California, is already suffering impacts of climate change in the form of droughts, air pollution, extreme heat, and lowland flooding. Earlier today, at our little press conference we did, I cited some pretty scary projections. 8 feet of sea level rise over the next 100 years, and we know that even at 3 feet, the ferry building is going to be flooding twice daily. The Embarcadero, Mission Bay, and Marina will all be at risk, and already we're planning to permanently close 2 lanes of the Great Highway in response to rising tides. We know that we and our successors are going to have to find billions and really tens of billions or more to make the infrastructure investments necessary to protect the city from climate change impacts that are already inevitable. So we have to take every feasible action to prevent even more severe impacts. The emergency is upon us, and we need to recognize that and act with urgency based on that recognition every day. San Francisco has been a leader on environmental issues, and we should all be grateful for the tremendously talented staff of our Department of the Environment. And in particular, I want to thank Director Rafael, Debbie Rafael, and Peter Galata for their help with this resolution. I also want to thank Tyrone Jew in the Mayor's office for his counsel along the way. This resolution seeks to build on and amplify their efforts. I want to thank Kyle Smealy in my office as well. Berkeley, Hayward, Richmond, and Oakland have already taken the step of declaring a state of climate emergency, and we should certainly join them. I want to thank my co-sponsors, President Norman Yee, as well as Supervisor Sandra Lee Fewer, Aaron Peskin, Gordon Marr, Valley Brown, and Matt Haney. I look forward to working with all of you as we respond to the greatest emergency of our time. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor.